Hello, it's wonderful to speak before such a fantastic group at the Rural Wireless Infrastructure Summit. Thank you to the Rural Wireless Association and to Carrie Bennett in particular for the invitation, and to Jana Wallace for the introduction. This is a perfect opportunity to discuss the importance of rural broadband, specifically broadband that is available, affordable, and secure. Without your important work deploying and providing connectivity, the future of the next generation broadband will not be achievable for everyone. The great news is that the interreliance between rural wireless carriers and infrastructure providers more broadly, and the work of the Commission to expand rural broadband has never been stronger. We both continue to prioritize deployment and service and reaching all Americans everywhere. While there are many issues to discuss on this topic, I'm going to highlight two of my policy priorities where you all are on the front lines. First, that is deploying accessible and affordable broadband, and second, ensuring those networks are secure. To the first, we've been talking about the digital divide for over 25 years, but much work still remains. Millions of households remain without broadband, and millions more cannot afford to pay for quality access. And by the way, this is not an either or, but a both and. There are millions of people in rural areas that have, up until now, not had access to broadband and couldn't afford it if they did. We needed change. As I have previously stated, solving the problem of internet inequality is a moral imperative and essential to the United States competitiveness. I'm heartened to see that Congress and the Commission have stepped up and made historic investments to connect everyone to high-quality, high-speed broadband. Billions of dollars from the Department of Commerce, the Department of Treasury, and the Federal Communications Commission are being invested in broadband nationwide. This includes BEAD and other commerce offerings recently announced in their Notice of Funding Opportunities, the Treasury's Capital Projects Fund, and the many proceedings ongoing at the Commission. Here, specifically at the FCC, we have been busy. The Rural Digital Opportunity Fund funding authorizations are ongoing. The Commission just adopted a further notice seeking comment on extending the successful Alternative Connect America model, ACAM, in return for increased speeds and other consumer benefits in those service areas. And the Universal Service Fund continues to support deployment of high-cost networks, rural healthcare, and broadband for schools and libraries. And I haven't even mentioned the Emergency Connectivity Fund, which is a $7 billion fund to help schools and libraries provide service for remote learning during COVID. Now more than ever, it is imperative that we take full advantage of these resources and do all that we can to maximize these programs for everyday Americans. And that's where you come in. As I said, you're at the forefront of this effort. You're trenching and deploying fiber in conduits, lashing fiber around aerial strands, and deploying mobile and fixed wireless to connect Americans. But how do we ensure that all Americans, including those living in rural areas, can take advantage of this newly deployed broadband? We must ensure that they can choose an affordable offering as needed. Again, ensuring access is necessary but not always sufficient to getting rural Americans connected. I have routinely called on the Commission and providers to ensure that as they take advantage of the unprecedented funding to deploy broadband, they ensure that there are affordable offerings as part of that build-out. I feel strongly that the recipients of these taxpayer funds must ensure that all in their service area may benefit. And for low-income Americans where cost is a barrier to getting connected, fortunately, the Affordable Connectivity Program is here to help. In addition to the billions Congress allocated for broadband build-out, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act included $14 billion for long-term affordable connectivity program. What does that mean? For eligible households, those with household income at or below 200% of the federal poverty guidelines, ACP can reduce internet costs by up to $30 each month and up to $75 each month in tribal lands. Depending on the available offering, that may mean that some consumers can have the full cost of their broadband service covered by ACP. Indeed, President Biden announced last month at an event at the White House that 80% of the United States population is now covered by a provider offering high-speed broadband plans at zero cost with ACP eligibility. Now, many of you, of course, are familiar with ACP. Over 12 million households have signed up and are benefiting from the program, but there are millions more that are in fact eligible, many in rural communities. And so while we have done much, there is much more to do. That's why I'm excited that the Commission continues to work on a pilot program I propose to do, expanding ACP participation in households receiving federal public housing assistance. Individuals receiving federal public housing assistance are a community with unusually low ACP enrollment. I feel strongly that if we can help a family secure housing, we should also be able to help them secure an internet connection as well. Your home, your internet, and all of our collective step forward toward broadband for all. But you all can help as well. Help spread the word in your communities to ensure that anyone eligible has signed up. And thank you for your help there. On to the second priority of mine. We must ensure that our broadband networks are secure. This is evident in the constant barrage of attacks on American networks from hostile state and non-state actors. Insecure networks, by definition, can't provide the stable, reliable, always-on communications we need, especially during emergencies. Broadband must be secure for the full benefits of broadband to be achieved. Cybersecurity has an integral role and be the subject of a well-coordinated government-wide effort. So I'm proud that for the first time at my request, the Commission recently sought comment on whether we should require ACAM carriers and carriers receiving high-cost support to have baseline cybersecurity and supply chain risk management plans. Ensuring that federally funded broadband networks have a baseline of protection is an important first step. These cybersecurity and supply chain risk management plans, if ultimately included as a requirement in future ACAM and other high-cost support programs, will ensure that baseline of support to protect American communication networks from threats from adversaries and bad actors. Such a requirement will also ensure that FCC-funded broadband deployments are consistent with the Department of Commerce BEAD-funded counterparts. Consistency, of course, in security is important, regardless of the funding source, and will ultimately help to protect consumers nationwide. But what about an insecure and untrusted equipment and services that are already deployed? Back in 2019, I organized a workshop called Find It, Fix It, Fund It. It focused on finding solutions to the challenges of untrusted Huawei and ZTE equipment and services deployed in domestic communications networks, and brought national attention to the urgent need to support small and rural companies as they work to remove and replace insecure equipment and services. I have been and remain a strong advocate of reimbursing carriers that rip and replace Huawei and ZTE and their networks. And so I'm happy to see this hard work realized as part of the Secure and Trusted Communications Networks Reimbursement Program. And I have to mention, RWA and its members have been very active in this proceeding, and so I thank you and RWA for your thoughtful advocacy, which has made the Secure and Trusted Communications Networks Reimbursement Program even stronger. The results of the Commission's review of the applications to participate in the reimbursement program are set to be announced July 15th. And although we know that fully funding the estimated reimbursement demand will require an additional congressional appropriation, my background as a leading voice at the Commission for securing our networks and the reimbursement program means that this is a top priority to ensure we get this right. What about untrusted service providers? The Commission has also recently revoked the authority to operate any Section 214 authorizations for certain providers identified as posing a threat to the United States and its people, namely China Unicom, Pacific Networks, ComNet USA, and we rejected China Mobile's application for a 214 authorization. This is an important first step, but now we must ensure that we focus our attention on the facilities and services that these carriers continue to operate in even after they have had their Section 214 authority revoked. This includes data centers and other private offerings, many of which are located in rural America. The threat is real. Companies that are deemed by the federal government to be a threat to the United States and its people cannot have free reign in data centers featuring some of the most sensitive data of Americans. These companies that are subject to the orders of adversary states simply cannot be allowed to access to the communications of U.S. citizens and its organizations. The Commission should work with Congress and the administration to examine how to tackle network security threats such as foreign-owned data centers. I have previously called for the Commission, in cooperation with the relevant executive branch agencies, to commence an inquiry to first identify all U.S.-based data centers owned and or operated by companies subject to the laws or jurisdiction of adversary states. Second, to identify on a confidential basis the services provided by these data centers and their customers. Third, ascertain whether the data centers present a risk of interception, tampering, or blocking of U.S. communications and information. And fourth, identify any legal authority of the FCC or another regulatory body to protect the U.S. communications stored within or that otherwise transit these data centers. I hope we do so expeditiously, and I'm willing to work with everyone. Increasing innovation in our network equipment and services will also improve our security. I have long supported Open Radio Access Networks, ORAN, as a technology that could improve competition, increase efficiency, and improve security in communications networks. These next few years will be critical in the development of this new type of network architecture. And although I don't need to tell this group, ORAN equipment and services may have a lot of benefits. They can reduce energy consumption in the telecom sector through the replacement of hardware with software functionality, as well as perform upgrades through software rather than resource-intensive equipment replacement. Increases in competition that ORAN promises can lead to innovation from many new applications, as well as a much quicker innovation schedule. And while standards on security are still being finalized, ORAN has a significant promise as a higher security offering for providers in the future. I recognize that increased open interfaces mean the potential of a larger threat surface, but innovation resulting from ORAN, including the increased softwareization of networks, may result in giving the operator more control of the network security, allowing optimization at the carrier level to protect against specific threat profiles. We are at the forefront of an exciting time in communications. The increase in deployment, coupled with ACP and affordable broadband plans, means that the benefits of the internet in our modern economy will soon be open to many who have waited far too long to log on. It is past time that we close the digital divide for good. I will, of course, continue to push for accessible and affordable broadband deployment that is secure, and I look forward to continuing to work with rural providers to achieve these goals. Thank you so much, and of course, be safe and be well.